Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So what I'm going to be doing today is another trade recap on gold. And the reason I want to make this video is just because this framework today was like A+. It doesn't get better than this framework. And this is a trade, I took the exact same trade as Garrett, and I'm going to show you the exact framework behind it and why I took it, right? And this is something that repeats all the time. And when you see this A+ setup, this is something you have to take because it's just super high probability overall. So what we're going to focus on first is how the weekly candle we're forming. So we can see early on in the week, we're forming a open high into this previous weekly high. Now, if we go down to the lower time frame, we can see we basically hit a external relevant buy side liquidity on Friday. So when we hit this buy side liquidity and then we're forming a reversal early on in the week on Monday, this is generally speaking where we can expect this to be high of week. Now, do I need to know if this is high of week? No, because I understand I can actually frame Tuesday and Wednesday because it's giving me like face of price that is showing in lower prices. The profiles is showing me that we can frame this lower overall. So I traded on Tuesday as well, which was a win lower. Traded Tuesday lower, and I traded Wednesday lower. So, but what I'm gonna focus on right now is if you want to look at my trade on Tuesday, this next day model that T-Trades teaches, you can go watch that on his YouTube channel. But you can also go watch my Instagram. I actually posted a recap of this trade, which was super great. And today was also super great. So 2 days of really clean price action. So what I wanted to focus on is basically how this new daily candle was forming. So when we open the day, we can see we basically open high first. Now what I want you to focus on is we're just leaving previous day's low open as a target, right? Because if we're gonna be trading higher, we want something like this, where we basically expand on Tuesday, Wednesday open low into this previous daily low, because now we have a protected low to trade away from, so it will look something like this, right? But when we leave this open, this just becomes a target. And just looking how the daily candle was forming, we can see we're just leaving low resistance. We're not trading away from high resistance, right? So if we were trading away from high resistance, it would look something like this, where we basically open the day right here. So we can mark at the open. So we see that, let's say we open low into this previous daily low. Then if we go to the hourly time frame, we can see this would likely be a low no reversal, where we basically form or not low no reversal, sorry, we basically form low of day at the open. So Asia would be basically low of day if we were trading away from high resistance, because then we can expect London to continue off Asia and then New York to even trade higher. But when we leave this low open, this becomes a target, because you can see on the sell side we're just leaving low resistance, right? This is something that is super important if you're gonna frame this lower, because otherwise I couldn't do it personally. But if you look at face of price as well, if we go back to the 4 time frame, what are we doing? Previous day, expansion. What are we doing today? We're retracing back inside this previous daily dealing range. Now, what can we look for within this previous daily dealing range? We can look for like, okay, we want to stay below the lower quadrant of this dealing range, and then we can look for sort of a PD array to react from, right? But the most key important fact is that if we're gonna start trading above the 50% of this previous dealing range, then likely this high is gonna get taken. So that's something key to understand here. But let's skip to 6 a.m. where the trade actually started presenting itself, or around 6 a.m. to between 6 and 10. That's where the trade was forming. So what we can see right here is, if we go back to the 4 hour time frame, something to note here is how the 4 hour candles were forming. So what we can see right here is that if we go to AXA Euro, we can see that we're basically taking out the previous 4 hour high, right? So that is where we make this SMT. So when we make SMT prior, so we actually had a driver today at 8:30. So when we're opening high, we have targets below, and we're forming a protected high prior to the driver. This is generally speaking where the driver can just expand away from this, because now we have an established high to trade away from. So what we see right here is we basically form this reversal where we have candle 1, we have candle 2. We can see that candle 2 closes through this opposing candle. And when we're aligning, like when we understand we have an established high prior to the driver, we can see that on the 30 minute we also close. So what should 8:30 do if we all have an established high? It doesn't need to come back up here again if we have an established high. It wouldn't make any sense. That's not how the price operates. So that is where we can expect 8:30 with high probability to expand away from here. Now, in today's scenario, we actually didn't. We got like no volume at all, which is super weird overall. This is something I would take every single day of the month if it presented itself, right? But let's go to the lower time frame so we can actually understand what's going on here. So what we can see right here is we understand that we had an established low. So if we mark out okay, we have 830 right here, right? And we can see that we're basically closing. We're closing. So the candle opened high at around, so the hourly ATM candle, we basically opened high. We're taking out the previous hourly candle high, and we're also making likely high of day if we're gonna frame this lower. Now we did come higher and actually make another high of day, which this wasn't high of day, but at this point, without any more price, this is where I expect the high of day to be, right? Because now we have clear targets, right? It gets even more clear in the lower time frame, right? Because now we have all these swings low. What are these? This is just failure swings to this relevant low, which is previous sales low. So now that we understand that, we can see that the driver basically opens high, and we're just kind of like forming this driver's wick or candle within this dealing range, right? So we see we have like a dealing range right here, we have like a dealing range right here, where we're basically just coming back inside this range. We're retesting the initial change in state delivery, and then when we're closing below this opposing candle, now this basically just confirms it, right? Now we understand that on the hourly time frame, this high is already protected because we closed below an hourly opposing candle and 30-minute. And on the lower time frame, now we have that. You can call it like a propulsion block, right? Because we basically retest this order block. We're closing below. So now this is a super high probability trade. This is something Garrett and me took as well. We both took this trade. It's a super great trade overall, and we have clear targets below. So when we basically open high into this, we retest it, we close below, that's my entry, right? It's super clear to me. And what we can see right here is we basically come higher. It takes me out by a few points, like 1.5 points. And then we just start delivering lower, right? And then we hit the drawn liquidity right here. This is just a super unfortunate trade for me, because like this is something we can't anticipate. But what I want you to focus on here as well is like you can actually take a re-entry here. So even if this trade's lost, which is like 90% of the cases, this will actually distribute because the driver usually has enough volume to actually expand price lower. When we already have, this is key to understand, guys. We have an established low. We don't need to come back up again. It wouldn't make any sense. But what we can see right here is AXA Euro. We come back and we take out this high again, right? So now we have this 260MT. So now this trade, you see how we're basically having a clear draw open. So we can see that these candles fail to hit anything relevant to the downside. We have sessions highs open, we have previous lows open, we have failure swings. So that is where when we make this 260MT, where we basically come back up, we take out this high again, which is something that we can't anticipate, right? This is not something you anticipate. It's impossible. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's like this is super hard to know, right? Like how can we know that we're gonna come higher, make another SMT? But what I want you to focus on here is that like now this turns it into a super high probability trade, because now we see we have a first stage SMT right here. We're closing below, we're coming higher again, but we can see that the 830 driver still fails to actually expand price higher. So when we come lower and we close below here, now we have the 2 SMT. So this is a clean re-entry if you want to get into market. Now I couldn't actually get in here because you do see the closure here. We basically come lower, we fail to close, and then we just kind of like start trading lower. So the only entry would have looked something like this, and this is not valid. Like the R isn't there, so it would have to look something like this. And this is like a 1 R trade if I wanted to re-enter, because I have to wait for the next closure to get the change in state delivery, right? But I still have a clear job, but this is not something I would take because it's just lower probability now. Like we already kind of like, it's too much of a range for me, and I can't have a valid stop loss if price expands like this and fails to close up here. But yeah, that was overall the trade. We obviously met drawn liquidity, and then we can see prices kind of like this is crazy. This is, I think there was some sort of news here, which was super insane. Never knew price would do this. But yeah, I think that's the overall trade. That was the overall framework. Like I said, this is an A+ model. This is something I would take every single day of the month, right? I would take this every single day, right? But overall, I saw a lot of the GxT traders take this trade. So props to you guys. This was super clean. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you like it, hey, leave a like. Comment what you want to see next. Maybe more daily recaps. Maybe some more sauce on like some SMT stuff. You know, whatever you guys want, I'll provide, of course. But yeah, appreciate you guys watching, and goodbye.